Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about midlife transition and change. I'm going to be sharing why midlife isn't the only time we experience this and it continues as we age. I'm also going to share six insights that will help you move through this transition phase if that's what you're going through right now to gain clarity. My name is Deb, and welcome to Women Reinventing Midlife TV, where we aim to inspire women over 50 to thrive in a meaningful life that you deeply desire and deserve. Now, I'm 62 this year. I've already turned 62, and I'm smack bang in the middle of a transition. I've probably been here for about the last 6 to 8 months. And yes, it is a confusing time. However, I know that clarity lies ahead. So it's not something that I'm so uncomfortable with now. However, when it's the first transition that you're going through or you realize you're going through, then it can be a really confusing time. It can be a really unsettling time. So I trust what I'm going to share with the video today is going to help you. Now, we go through many transition points through different phases of life. And these start right from when we're a child and we start school. So we do go through a lot of transition points. However, we seem to sail through them a lot easier when we're a bit younger. And that is because the way we feel about uncertain times and the way we feel about change actually changes as we age. So when we get to the midlife transition, this is my third transition now since the age of 49. When we go through midlife transition, there are a lot of different things that change and move around in our life. And probably that is why we notice the transition a lot more. We're also less comfortable with change as we age. What I mean by that is we're probably more prepared to do risky things when we're younger than we are when we're older. So we are not as comfortable with the transition process and the changes that we go through. So it can be a really confusing time. It can be a really, really unsettling time. And my heart goes out to you if you are there at the moment. So today I'm going to share some insights that can help you through this transition that you're going through. These are things that I use. These are the practices that I use. And they're practices that I've used in the past and I will continue to use. They're also things that I guide my clients to use too. So the first one I'm going to talk about is staying grounded as you go through transition, whatever age you are, whether you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, or even beyond that. It's important to stay grounded. Like I said, as we age, we're less comfortable with change. As human beings, we prefer certainty to the exclusion of everything else. Most of us do. Probably about 95% of the population prefer certainty. And when we're going through transition, the least that we have is certainty. We're more in a space of uncertainty. We don't know what it is that we want for our life, or we don't know what we want to do for work next. We don't know what we want to do in retirement. We don't know what we want for our relationship maybe. And so we're in a space of uncertainty. And when we're in that space, it's not very comfortable. It can bring up feelings of fear. It can bring up anxiety. It can bring up stress. And that in itself can get in the way of us gaining the clarity that we're looking for. When we stay grounded, what we're doing is we're bringing ourselves into the present moment. When we're feeling uncertain, when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling stressed, we are up here. And what we're doing is we're thinking about all the things that are wrong in our life. And we're thinking about the things, what is it that I want? You've got no idea what it is that you want. Why am I not clear? Everything like that is going on in the head. What we're not doing is being present in our bodies. And when we stay grounded, we stay present in our bodies. So different ways that we can ground ourselves is through different practices. So for me, I start my day in a really grounded way. I'll go for a walk with the dog. And when I go for a walk, I tend not to be in my head. Sometimes I am until I bring my awareness to it. I tend to look at the landscape around me. So I'm looking at the trees, I'm looking at the birds. So I'm bringing myself into what is happening right now. So I'm in the present moment. I'm not in the past. I'm not worrying about the future. I'm in the present moment. So I'm looking at the trees, I'm looking at the birds, I'm feeling the dog tugging on the lead, or I'm thinking about my body and how the cold air feels on my skin. I'm doing something like that. So I'm grounding myself in the present moment. Another great way you can stay grounded is to go into nature. And I'm blessed to have a lot of nature around where I live, but some of us don't. The thing is, even if you're in a city, you have sparrows that land on the ground to peck away at little crumbs that people have dropped while they've been eating on the street. And so even that is tuning into nature. There might be a weed growing out of the sidewalk, or there might be some grass verge somewhere. So it's really finding ways to connect into nature, going into your back garden with bare feet, putting your feet on the grass or in the dirt is a really beautiful way to ground yourself. Other practices that I use, and I don't do all of these every single day, but I do a combination of them. So other practices I use are breath work. I'll sit and breathe and consciously and mindfully breathe. I might do some yoga. I might meditate. There are other really beautiful practices to use. Things like Tai Chi, Qigong, even things like swimming. If you are mindfully swimming, so thinking about how the water, or noticing how the water feels on your skin, or how the water feels as it flows past you, or how it looks, is being in the present moment. All of these practices can help you stay grounded. When you are focusing on staying grounded, what you're doing is you're bringing that sense of certainty into yourself. Instead of trying to control everything else that's going on out here, you're having some self-control. So you're bringing that sense of certainty within yourself because you're feeling grounded in the present moment. And this is so, so important. This is an important first step. The second thing that I want to talk about is exercise. Exercise is really helpful. Why? Because it's quite uplifting. What exercise does, it triggers the release of feel-good chemicals and hormones into our bloodstream, things like serotonin and dopamine that help us feel uplifted and energized. And that's what we want. When we're more uplifted, then we're in a much more likely place where we're able to gain clarity. So instead of feeling flat, down, they are weighty emotions that are going to actually create obstacles to you having that clarity. So making sure that you do exercise every day, whatever form that is. Some of the things I've already mentioned are forms of exercise, but there are other things too, like running, cycling, dancing, whatever it is for you, the kind of exercise that you enjoy and lights you up. Dancing is a great way to start the day. Just 10 minutes of dancing is really going to get the energy moving, and even the music that you're dancing to is going to create that uplifted state. So that's where we want to be as we're going through the midlife transition. We're in a much more likely place where we're going to gain the clarity that we're looking for. Number 3 that I want to talk about is diet. Now, there's a video at the end of this one that will go into more detail as to why diet is important. And the number one reason diet is important, actually, there's 2 reasons. The first reason is we want to keep our body healthy because we're going to age in a much better way if our body's healthy. The second most important reason, actually, they're both equal, is that our diet affects our emotional state. It does. Our diet affects our emotional state. And so things like alcohol and stimulants, yeah, they might work for whatever it is that you're using them for to begin with, but it can actually create the reverse of that. So a lot of people will have a glass of wine each night to relax and to reduce stress. The problem here is this: alcohol can also increase stress. So even though the initial effect can help you relieve stress, it can also have the opposite effect. The same as alcohol can lead you to feel happy if you have a glass of wine. However, it's also a depressant. So it's important to reduce your intake of alcohol. I love a glass of bubbles, or maybe sometimes 2 glasses on a Friday or Saturday night. But generally, my diet is healthy, fresh, and whole. So what that means is reducing or eliminating processed and refined foods, things like sugar, biscuits, chips, lollies, sweets, ice cream, all of those things that have been really highly processed. So generally all the packet food that you're finding down the middle of the aisles, but interestingly, even some of the dairy products that you find in the dairy cabinet now, a lot of them have a lot of sugar added. So it's really important to start reading labels. Again, you're going to find more information in the video at the end of this one about diet. But generally speaking, it is important to eat whole, fresh, and preferably organic if you can, vegetables, fruit, nuts, seeds, legumes. If you eat animal products, so if you're choosing dairy, for instance, I would go biodynamic or organic dairy, so preferably from a local dairy or a local farmer. If you eat meat and fish, so you're looking for fresh, wild caught fish, and meats are grain-fed, organic, chicken-free range. I don't eat a lot of meat and fish. I eat it about once or twice a month. However, I do know a fair bit about nutrition, so I make sure that I substitute plant foods that contain all the nutrients that meat and chicken contain. So again, with eggs, you want organic or free range. So making sure that your diet is healthy, fresh, and whole is going to help you reduce stress. It's going to help you reduce anxiety. It's also going to help you think a lot clearer as well. So, so important. Check that video at the end of this one. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is journaling, and I'm going to talk about journaling from 2 different aspects. But before I do that, if you're finding the content helpful so far, please remember to subscribe to this channel because it really does support me in continuing to bring more information like this to you. Okay, let's have a look at journaling. What do I mean by journaling? So first, the first aspect I want to look at of journaling is that it helps you process feelings and challenges. So if you're going through challenges at the moment and you're feeling certain feelings, I've already mentioned feelings like stress, anxiety, anger, sadness, depression actually get in the way of you being able to see what it is that you want next. So it is important that we process those emotions or find some way to process those emotions. A journal is a great way to do this, and to buy a special journal, I have a couple, and to use a pen. So this is not something you use a computer for. This is something that you use a notebook and a pen for. Now, I have recorded a video that's specifically about journaling and how to process your thoughts and feelings and to process a problem through a journal. And you will find that video at the end of this one. So make sure you check that out because it goes into a lot more detail. So processing your thoughts and feelings in a journal is really important. What is essential here is to create a grounded space. Remember that grounded space and to sit with your journal and just start writing about how you feel. Start writing about how you feel, what's happened, and what you've thought about what's happened that's led you to feel a certain emotion, because an emotion isn't just created by something that happened externally. The emotion's created by the thought process of how we've processed what's happened externally. And again, I do talk about all of that in a lot more detail in a video at the end of this one. So make sure that you check that one out, because it is very, very helpful. When we write this way, it's important to create space and create a decent amount of time. And you may even need to go back to this writing process a number of times before you've processed it all out and you've cleared it. And when you clear it, you feel clear. And it is important that you don't go back and read it afterwards. It is so important that you don't. I once spoke to a lovely lady that told me that she didn't like journaling because what she found was when she read it back, it triggered her again. And I said to her, you're not meant to read it back. You're meant to process it and let it go. So that is what journaling is about. It's about you processing it and let it go. And if you can't trust yourself not to go back and read it again, then burn it. So tear the pages out and burn them. Burning is also a really great way of clearing it even more as well. So I really do recommend the burning of it. Another great thing that you can do with your journal is to self-explore. So one of the reasons why we find this transition process so confusing, and sometimes we get stuck there, is because when we're going through it, the questions are, I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know what I want for my life, right? These are the questions. So these are both externally focused questions, right? They're both external. They're about us, but they're about what we're doing externally or what we want to have externally. Where we need to come in is inwards again when we're doing this self-exploration. So the main question here is, who am I? And when you know that, it becomes a lot easier to gain the clarity of what you want to do and the kind of life that you want to have. So when we go inward, what we need to start looking at as we're doing this self-exploration, and again, we want the pen and paper. We're not doing it on a computer. We're doing it with pen and paper. We start to look at what our qualities are. What makes us uniquely who we are? There's no two people exactly the same. So what is it that makes you uniquely who you are? What are your qualities? What are your strengths? What are you really good at? Quite often we don't give ourselves enough credit. There are things that we are very, very good at that we're not noticing. And we're not noticing them because they're strengths, right? We think everybody can do them, but not everybody can. So really honing in on what your strengths are, what your talents are, what you're even gifted in, what your personal core values are. They're really important too, because when we're living to our values, we feel really fulfilled and uplifted. So it's important that we know what they are so that we can make choices that line up with our values. What our work values are as well, if we're looking for what we want to do in work, or if we've just retired and we're looking for something to replace work. So noticing what our work values are as well. Different things like exploring your passions and interests are really important. If we know what our passions and interests are, then we can make choices that are really going to light us up from the inside. And really starting to explore what it is that you want to do. And once you begin this exploration process, then it becomes easier to start seeing the kind of things that you want to do next. So it's important when you sit there with your pen and paper that you do this in a space of non-judgment. So you're not judging the answers that you're finding inside yourself. You're just writing them down as they come up. You're not judging them, looking at them, thinking it's a silly thing, or you can't do it, or it won't work. That's all judgment. Just write down what comes up instead of analyzing it. It's important that we don't analyze, that we just allow our intuition to just deliver the answers to those questions. It is so important. This is the way that we begin to gain clarity. Probably another important thing, all of everything that I've shared here is important during the midlife transition or any transition that you're having in the years after that, is to be prepared to continue to learn. Now, I'm gonna I'm gonna mention a fast food company here, which is quite strange when I've talked about reducing processed foods. But McDonald's founder Ray Kroc, I love a quote that I once read of his, because it so applies to this stage of life, that we're either green and growing or we're ripe and rotting. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be ripe and rot. Not yet, anyway. So I want to remain green and growing. So I've made it's actually one of my values, learning and growing. I've made it an important part of my yearly experience to continue to learn new things. So once you're clear on what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, then make it your commitment to start learning things about it. So let's say you're passionate about travel, for instance. Start to think about the countries that you want to travel to, or the areas that you want to travel to, and then research those countries or those areas. Learn a bit about the place that you're going to visit, or even learn the language. How cool would that be? This is fabulous for our brain, to keep our brains active, to keep our brains clear, so that we continue to grow as we age, so that we continue to remain green as we age. And one of the most important things that I've learned about being prepared to learn every year is that as I'm learning something new, I notice how I'm lit up. So quite often I'm lit up when I'm learning something new. And as I'm learning, I'm getting ideas about things that I want to do next. So quite often when we go out there and step out of our comfort zone and do new things, we gain the clarity that we're actually looking for, and gaining an understanding of the kind of things that we might want to do that are going to light us up from the inside. Now, I know that I've shared a lot with you today, and there's a lot there that could be overwhelming if we try to do everything all at once, and I get it. So it's important here to start small, and also essential to let go of that all or nothing thing. There can be a tendency for many people that I speak to, that they realize that the changes that they need to make, and they've got to do all the things all at once, right? You don't have to. This is a slow process, and the slower you work through it, the more likely you are to gain the clarity that you're looking for. So it's so vital that you don't wait for this big chunk of time when you've got time to do all the things, because you end up never doing it, because we never have that big chunk of time. You want to gain the clarity that you're looking for now. You want to feel lit up from the inside. You want to start working towards that now. So start small. Start with one thing. Start with one thing. Start with finding a way to ground yourself every morning. And if you're already doing that, then start with the next thing. And save this video to your bookmark so you can keep coming back to it to help you through this process. This is the process that I use, and this is a process that I teach my clients to use. So it is a process that does work, and I encourage you to use it and to have patience. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. A transition doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes people gain clarity in a blinding flash of light in a spiritual awakening, and that's great for them. But the majority of us, it takes time. What I want to say to you here is this: once you start putting these practices into a process, once you start actioning them, once you start asking yourself those important questions, the questions that I've given you in this video and also in the videos at the end of this one, once you start doing that, then the unconscious mind starts looking for the answers, and your intuition might deliver just when you're out on one of your grounding walks one day. So be patient, allow the answers to come, because they do come once you start asking yourself those really important questions. Now, I trust and I hope that you found this content helpful. And if you have, please remember to like the video, share the video, because we can all do with this kind of information when we're going through transition. And please remember to subscribe to this channel and click the bell for notifications so you're notified as soon as the next video comes out. Lots of love to you, and I'll look forward to connecting next time. Bye-bye.